These are my information. I'll do that.
Or it might rain.
My phone is great. We are technically active dollars.
Yes.
Emergency. I can't turn it off.
That's not, I was babysitting. Bigger's better. She's not, it's not, it's not on. There it goes, yeah.
I mean, it's smaller.
They fly. Some temperatures.
Okay, I just.
Smaller.
Number reading started, you fuck, 1 minute, 40.
It's recording.
Oh, it's on.
So you have called.
Winter times.
Winter. That's it, what he's showing, I didn't see talking, we're going through right now. I'm sorry, we don't have any here.
If anybody would else like to talk about the agenda, they can have,
Oh, I didn't realize there was the agenda out there. So it's hardly see, it's me.
It's hard to say.
Wait a minute, I have left.
Maggie, I would suggest moving up front. No, the PowerPoint thing, yeah, I would suggest moving up front. Anybody who has a hard time seeing their own good, there's some seats there, feel free to scoot closer.
Will the information be posted out to someplace?
The minutes will have to, the minutes and the reports will have to be approved the next meeting, and then they'll be posted.
Next meeting. It's asking about the background information.
Like whatever you can show these numbers, yeah.
It's on Teams, and it'll be recorded, and that'll be available.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order. My name is Matthew Shepard. I'm the chair of the committee. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you guys could turn your cell phones to silent, just so we're not going off during the meeting. And also I had some questions about how can we have this meeting where we don't have quorum. So I just wanted to maybe clarify that, you know, maybe for the people online, that because this committee was set up while we had quorum, and I was appointed as the chair of the committee while we still had quorum, we're still able to do committee functions, even though we don't have quorum as played until next month. So I just want to clarify that. I had a couple questions about that. So we're going to move to the approval of the agenda. What we're going to add on there, Councillor Allen, is going to be to part E, 7E, will be to an update on annual audit. So I'll just do a quick one-liner once we get to that. Other than that, we have a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll second it.
Councillor Rocket, Councillor Allen, second. So any discussion on that? I'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. We don't have any minutes. This is our first meeting. Any conflict of interest? Any conflict of interest? Any conflict of interest? No presentations this evening, no previous unfinished business, and this again is our first meeting. So we're gonna start with 7A. And so on that, so this is kind of a high level of financial report so far, essentially what we call the actuals of what have been spent so far with regard to last year, or for this year's budget for 2025. So on a high level, Councillor Allen has actually quite a detailed presentation he's going to give here, but on a high level, most of our spending, we don't have much choice, right? The police budget is, 1.2 million. We paid 600,000 because we've done 2 quarterly budgets so far, essentially, right? So most of our numbers are pretty set. There are some we have some flexibility on. Councillor Allen will kind of go over that. A good example would be staffing, because we had budgeted 4 staff, but we actually only have 2. That'll be quite a bit under, right? So most of them are either as expected or under. There's a few that are minorly above, but overall things are going well from an actuals versus last year budget. And again, go ahead, Councillor Allen. I know you have a detailed presentation there.
So yeah, so kind of specialized component we're looking at, numbers where we're going to be at the end of 2025. And the deputy treasurer gave us this awesome report I thought I'd expand upon it just to make it a little bit easier to read, and I haven't had a chance to ask her for some of the details, so I made a few assumptions here. But as we go through and look at the spending, and what we spent so far this year versus what we budgeted, for example, like unconditional grants, we spent 17,146, this is, my apologies. This is income, Mac, I apologize, my throat is killing me. I'm trying hard just to get through it. Sorry, this is my fault. This is the income section. So revenue, we've received 2.25 million of the 4.55 million. Then we can get into the operating expenses and start to look at what's it gonna look like at the end of the year? What are we gonna have for a surplus so that we can put that into the 2026 budget and make use of it? So for example, if we look at line 26 here, that highlighted councillor remuneration. We're missing a few councillors. We're not paying them. Chances are we're not gonna hire them. So there's a very good chance at the end of the year, oh, sorry.
Just one second, Councillor. Councillor Howard, you have a question?
Yes, through you, to Councillor Allen, could you maybe explain what column C, D, and, E mean? for
Sure, my,
everyone, so they know exactly what those figures represent?
yep, so my apologies. Column C is the expenditures, or receipts to date, up to, the end of June.
Yeah, June.
31st of this year, the end of June. End of June?
And
End of June, end of June. Column D is kind of a subtotal of, C and, like, for example, you'll see here in, 25C and 25D, they add up to the amount in section D that we use. So, column F is the budgeted amount. And again, sometimes those are grouped together and give a column G grouped amount. So for example, these two numbers are grouped together to give this number. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's the surplus to date, but of course, in column I, that's how much we haven't used of the budgeted amount as of June 31st. Column J is what I'm projecting will be left over at the end of the year. So after we spend the money, so we should have 21,000, for example, in council remuneration that was not paid out. That's going to be surplus money at the end of the year. You see, like 27 development seminars, there was no budget for it, so it's a minus number here. So in column J, I'm trying to get a plus minus, ending with the result of how much money we should expect should be left in our bank accounts at the end of 2025.
Councillor Shepherd, through you to Councillor Allen, just so to clarify, so column I is the actual surplus as of January 3rd, June 3rd?
Correct.
Correct, okay. And then the J is the projected
That's
for the end of the year.
what I have projected.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And Deputy Treasurer can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this C through I columns. If I'm wrong on what's this. So as we move down through, there's areas where we're gonna see some significant not spending this year, so we're gonna have some surpluses. What I tried to do was get a double the amount where it was reasonable to do so, double the amount spent so far and kind of move it on. Subtract it from the amount that was budgeted in line G and then giving us the line J total. So, but one of the big ones though, for example, is staff wages. We don't have 4 staff. So I'm projecting that, we're gonna have probably somewhere around $226,000-ish of that money that's not spent. It's gonna be fairly close, fairly accurate. EI and expenses, for example, we budgeted 9,000 for EI expenses. We spent 22,600. Well, we're not gonna spend more than that in the next half. So I just doubled that number and it gives us a $5,000 savings on EI, CPP $11,000 and 17,000. I mean, not savings, just money that's not gonna be spent, so hopefully surplus at the end of the year. Also I'll scroll down through quickly instead of explaining every one of them so that we don't waste all your time. If there's any that you kind of want to ask about, feel free. I kind of went down through and like, legal service, we got maybe 35,000 left. One that I was quite confident on, other general admin, we should have 58,000 left. The EOC, I'm the director of emergency measures now, and I don't have any intention to spend any money. We're in the process of just building EOC, developing volunteers, developing relationships, and no dollars to be spent at this point. So that's another $77,000 of, last year's budget that we don't have to spend. Bylaw, chances are we spent nothing to date. We don't have any bylaw personnel. We're probably not going to. That 12,868 is again something we can save. The animal control, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the animal control contract was 26,000. We've already spent 17. I didn't have time to ask, so I can calculate that, but I assumed that we were gonna have a little bit of a deficit there and need to spend an extra 1710, but I could be wrong. I didn't have time, unfortunately, to ask the deputy treasurer some of these questions. We were building this stuff over the last couple of days. Streetlight power, again, there's a slight savings there because the actual, as of halfway through the year, was 6618. The budget was 20, sitting at a surplus of probably $6,700 approximately. Signage, we don't have to take care of that. That whole 25,000, that's surplus. So as we go down through, they may not seem like large numbers, but at the end of the year, they give this lovely number right here of over $500,000 in surplus. So that's what I'm hoping happens between now and the end of the year. There's no major expenditures or surprises and gotchas.
Through you, Chair, line 91, where it says transportation and transit, I believe it CRS Capital Regional Service, I believe that would be. I just would like clarification as to what, I've just seen that figure now and it stands out. What exactly is that? Because I am not aware of any public transit in our community. So just would like clarification.
There is.
There is? Okay.
It's a provincial thing. I'm familiar with it because I'm on the board of directors for SIP and we were the money for a lot of that. And that's for like seniors or low income.
Okay, yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just, and this is a good note, actually, like, there's a lot of expenses here, particularly to CRSC, that we don't really have any choice on, that they're bills that are sent to us, and if you look at them, because
They're all zeros.
but not, there shouldn't be zeros. Like it,
Well, there's no, they're like, for example, like the local, like the CRSC ones, there's no surplus showing in that.
yeah, no service, yeah, so what it is, because it's a 6-month thing though, so if you look at the top one there, it's showing 83,700, and the total is about double that, because we made 2 quarterly payments as of the end of June. So again, there's not much flexibility there. We're paying those quarterly, we get those bills, carry on, right? So most of our budget, we actually don't have a lot of flexibility to. The main drivers of this $500,000 potential savings is the fact that we only have 2 staff instead of 4. EMO was significantly under budget, plus there was a bunch of kind of little things like the lights and stuff that we were under, and it's kind of, and also a little bit on the, no, that's next year for the rent. So just a few little things that kind of all added up, but the main things that we actually had some say over was staffing and the EMO.
Yeah, big ones. A couple thousand here, 1,000 there,
That's all.
9,000 here, $3,500 there. It does all add up. To probably somewhere. Well, that's why we'll discuss in the budgeting part of it if anyone are very accurate with these numbers, and that way you might have surpluses like that.
Councilor, did you have anything else on that?
So that's the presentation. I mean, I guess where is committee?
So Councilor Howard, if you have a question?
I just like to say I am very pleased with the numbers. I like to work with actuals. I know we don't always know the actuals, but when I look at the street light difference, that's quite a significant difference from a budget of 20,000 and the actuals are 13,300 for this year. And I know this budget was prepared by the former CAO. So just, I like working with actuals. That's the way I believe the budget should be as best as it can be.
Through the chair, I did tweak some of the numbers in budgeting to make those closer to the actuals.
And yeah, when we, on the next part, when we actually do the budgeting stuff, it'll be based primarily off of the actions here, right? So.
Yep.
So is there anything else on that?
So, I guess if you guys, if the committee is good with that, then I would recommend that report be presented to council when we're able.
I understand this is the meeting that we, people can ask the question.
Okay.
My question is around the HST, right, credit that we get back. So, whether it makes sense when we got 65,000, 66,000 back for 2024, what budget that show up and where does it show up in the budget? Income.
So the budget numbers, are HST included, HST included minus the reduction for debt, right?
2026 will be.
2026 will be, 2025 was not.
Okay, but we got money in 2025 for,
Yeah,
66,000 back. Where does that show up at, what year?
Well, it would show up,
that's this year.
So, there's gonna be income, there's gonna be somebody that we show income of $66,000.
Oh. So Mac, the income numbers will show up here.
Right.
it's not.
Go ahead, Dan, sorry.
Through you, Councillor Shepherd, I believe Mr. Shepherd is asking for what line item is it reflected, the income, is that correct?
Yeah. I think 66,000 came back to us. Okay, that's gonna be income of some sort, that's whether you made or finance to show the income.
So,
That may be a question we can take back to staff. I
So-
understand that.
at this point, Mac, what I'm working on here is, it is really at this point, using the previous budget. Because we want to, this is not a complete picture. This is going to be something we're gonna have to develop over the next little while, over the next couple months, and hopefully be completely ready by the time October rolls around.
So you're saying, we'll have that
Just, yeah,
66,000.
so one second there. So the truth is, Matt, I don't know.
Okay.
So we've written this down, Deputy Treasurer, written that down, and we'll hopefully have that answer at our next meeting. This is a good question. I don't know how that's budgeted.
The thing of HMT, like when I looked at a lot of receipts, especially for bills, not gonna be eligible under CRA. Right?
We'll address that, in the next section. I'm actually gonna report on that if you don't.
But I'm just saying to see, I don't question is, if we can't break them off or pay at a deduction, right? If it qualifies for CRA, deduction or cost. Are we allowed to take HST on something we can't make?
We can't claim it.
Okay, and so we'll close it. So we could have, potentially have, got rebates and stuff we shouldn't have.
That is possible.
Okay, thank you.
That will be something we'll know as we do more monthly reviews. I've got one monthly audit review done so far for January of 2025. We're going to do through 2025 first. We have the special audit committee. I guess we'll move on to the special audit committee report.
Yeah, do you want to actually have a formal vote about presenting this, or do you do that at the end? Like, do you want to say?
Yeah, usually during the committee meeting, we move to present the reports to council as written or as amended.
But you want to, at the end of that?
And, yeah, sure, yeah.
Can I just ask one question? If you can go to the bottom of that five number, that big number.
Yep.
So that's 532,000.
So you're talking surplus and deficit, but I pay my taxes in March, let's say.
Yeah, you've already paid this money, John.
So I already paid this money. Yes, this is money you took from all of us.
Yep.
And essentially didn't need to take it.
This is money in the March
Because half a
budget.
million too much of our $100.
Correct.
And there's not gonna money in some bank account, some something big.
Correct.
And now we're like, yeah, what are we gonna do? Let's, you know, I presume you're like, let's give people back their money that we took, we shouldn't have taken. I don't presume that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna say, oh, let's spend that next year, or let's go on a spending spree, and we've got in the budget this year, let's go to town and let's buy fancy cars for all the counselor. I don't presume that, I would hope that's what's not gonna happen.
That will,
Or maybe that's a $500,000 of meal budget. But that money's already been taken from us,
yeah, it has.
and so, yeah, so you say surplus deficit, but essentially that's our money. That's took in March,
Yeah, so,
and you didn't need it.
so we will, because that'll come up in the budget section, because that obviously will have a huge effect on next year's budget.
Next year. And so,
So part C, so 7C, we've discussed the budget, this estimated.
we'll see that numbers come back.
Will be hugely influential when we decide next year's budget, yeah.
So, and let's see, so next year's budget, so last year's budget, the council, I was there unanimously approved, excluding the new council. That's where they overestimated and took $500,000 too much from the taxpayers. That's the number I see.
Yeah, and again, you know, almost 300,000 of that was the two staff that we don't have. And EMO was budgeted 80K, spent almost nothing, right, so far this year on EMO.
So the staff, the staff that quit, that Sunbury-York South has been able to continue to function despite there not being here almost a whole year.
Yeah.
So essentially, we were overstaffed, we were kicking out $250,000 of our tax dollars to create a couple of positions that weren't necessary.
Yeah, so that's
Mine.
that's the biggest chunk of that 500K, was the two staff and the EMO that we haven't, thankfully haven't needed anyway, the emergency measure type stuff, so.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
There's one other thing I should have seen about. Would be smart for us to ask CRA to do an audit. So 4 years from now, we'll do an audit with them, all a bunch of money. Because there's a lot of things now.
Typically, the best thing that can happen, Mac, is when the special audit committee completes whatever we find for HST, and we should not complain. We should then report that to CRA and self-report it.
So you have invoices, like for example, invoices in market that are paid by growth unit. CRA would never accept that.
So, yeah, we have, that's the best way to handle that, is to let us complete that review.
Good.
And then whatever we notice, because you'll see it here in a minute. Actually, why don't I jump into
Yeah.
the monthly review?
So Mac, we can just finish this part, so, okay, so there's no other questions or concerns or debate on 7A, is that correct?
Oh, I did have one question, or, just kind of a comment that I'll send an email maybe for the, deputy treasurer. The EMO cell phone bill, that was the one that's no longer under contract. As EMO director, I will use my own, so if we could, I'll ask you to send me a note if we can look at terminating that. And that would be another, I know it's not a big number, but it's $500 and some savings, but savings is savings.
Councilor Allen, you're good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to part B, and so just a reminder, this is a presentation from the Special Audit Committee, and this is kind of a subcommittee that's Councilor Allen and Councilor Hartwick, because of conflict of interest on my point of view, so it's kind of a subcategory under this committee that's gonna give a report from the special audit. Councilor Allen?
Okay. So, I don't know if you guys want to read this, or you can take a look at it, but basically, we have looked at all the receipts, all the bank statements, all the visa statements, everything for financial, the accounting system reports from January of 2025. So there are no we verified the invoices, we confirmed the totals, identified any irregularities and discrepancies in documentation. Findings, really, there was only 2 small errors, and it is around the HST component of this. One has already been corrected, so there was an invoice for, I'll show it to you guys on an Excel spreadsheet here shortly, after I'm spending through this. There was an invoice for $125 to service the grounds like that HST been claimed on. However, we don't pay the HST until December 31st. So it hasn't been claimed and it's already been adjusted in the accounting system, so we're not taking the HST off that invoice. So that invoice is fixed, but it was found and it's been dealt with. There was one missing invoice. A former staff submitted an email as an invoice. HST was claimed on that and can't be, I don't know if you'll get the actual invoice, but we cannot claim invoices that, we can't claim emails as invoices. They have to show the supplier, the HST number, the totals, and, you wanna,
You're okay?
yeah, perfect. I don't want
Go ahead.
I have a question about the service runs that we do,
to.
because I have had the same account. I don't think it's taxed.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not. So the tax has been removed from it. The recommendations, of course, are ensure all invoices or receipts are received, filed, and attached before processing payment. And, they're really receipts, not emails or something like that. And again, that was just 1 month. The January 25 audit, we found all invoices attached and totals, they were correct. Like I said, the 2 minor exceptions noted. Corrective actions have been identified and there's no significant financial risks that we detected along with this, as long as we report to CRA once we've got it completed.
Yeah, so just to thank Councillor Allen. So just follow up on that. So I want to thank Councillor Allen and Councillor Harwood for doing this because it's a lot of work. That's only 1 month worth of work going through all these receipts. And so I know they've done a lot of work on that. So thank you for that. Councillor Harwood?
Yeah, through you, I'm just thinking now, and I never mentioned it to Councillor Allen or the deputy treasurer, but that invoice that a former staff member provided at requesting reimbursement, I'm thinking that possibly
This invoice.
instead of it being considered an expense to the municipality, I don't know, is it, it should be, to me, it should be expense to, as a reimbursement to the staff member. Not like as an expense, you commit an expense, you want reimbursement for something, just like if I don't know, I'm going to the store and I bought some water. And
Generally, that's how you do it.
or maybe that one's not a good example, but I guess maybe similar to mileage submission.
Yeah, if I was submitting if I was claiming, I am not claiming my cell phone bills, I pay them myself. But if I was claiming my cell phone bill in my company, the way I would do it is I would fill out an expense report, I would attach the invoice or receipts and submit it for payment to me.
And that, so that would clear up the HST issue if we went back and corrected that.
No, we would need the actual receipt because when CRA does an audit or review, they look for a receipt with an HST number. If you've claimed that HST, you need to know that HST number that they can go back and say, okay, this sounds like HST.
That, through you, Chair. Maybe I'm not being clear. What I'm saying, I do not believe it should be claimed as a cell phone expense for Sunbury-York Southfield community, but it should be claimed as an expense reimbursement to the employee.
Correct, taxable, it should have been a taxable benefit,
Yes. So
but
can we go back and fix that for January 2025?
in that, no,
It's only,
It's the
it's
same.
only what?
yeah.
It's wonderful.
So if we find any more of them, it would be taxable benefit. Again, that would be something that you have to ask CRA to step in and you self-report it and say, guys, I mean, I'm not an auditor, like, I'm an IT guy, but I did run a business for years and I can look at, you know, go through invoices and make sure they line up and look legitimate and real, it just needs to be active, it matched them with the accounting system and whatever needs to be claimed, that's something I would ask back.
That's fair.
Just one second. Was there anything else you had, Councillor?
So there's, if anybody wants to see, those are the receipts, those, so instead of, I just showed you the receipt in error, so we did have that one missing receipt, that's, there, that one, okay? And what I do here is I get the company name, that issued any of the receipts that I reviewed. The account was paid out of, whether the Visa, RBC2 bank account is the operating account, the receipt number, date, item, amount. Since in January, there was none that was related to, say, meals or things like that, where you would have to say who's in attendance, what it was for, things like that. There's literally none of those filled out in these columns. And this last column deals with any errors that we found. And of course, the service of bronze with one with the HSC, but that has been billed.
Councillor?
Through you, to Councillor Allen.
Is this a point, just because I know?
No, it's not in this part. I'm just struggling with why we can't go back and fix that, when we can go back and fix the SMB one.
You need to get the, I don't think you would need to get the receipt from the former employees. I don't know if that's gonna be.
No, what I'm.
We can't claim the HST on it. We can't claim.
I'm not asking to claim the HST, but I'm asking for that expense to be done as an employee expense and not as an expense. Well, cell phone expense for Sunbury-York South Rural Community, because if we can go back and fix the Service New Brunswick one, why can we not go back and fix this one and put it in the right allocated spot? I'm just confused that.
That would, I can't answer that question.
And you may
I would, you would need the receipt in order to claim it.
Yeah.
Like, it can't, that can't be claimed. It can't be claimed at all. So you need to submit our HST. That just can't be claimed. Like, we lose the HST on that.
Yeah, so since we probably won't have an answer to that, I'll ask the deputy treasurer to write that down, and maybe hopefully have an answer to that at one point. So just before I move on to Mac, I also should say thank you to the deputy treasurer, who was also involved in this process of going through all these receipts.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
And all of them, like I said, the conclusion is everything is good. Numbers at least, match up. There's no crazy spending. There's no, at least in January of 2025, we had a really good month.
Yes, but that is, in summary, for 1 month, nothing.
January,
Okay, so you're good, Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor.
Alan, you mentioned, down we have the truck sit at the area. So I'm assuming that staff would be using that. And it won't be any money.
that question's been asked. I don't have an answer for that. We can't. I don't have an answer for
The
that.
other thing is, are we gonna have best practice? Like, when I looked at the mileage charges for the last couple of years, I see mileage for staff to go to Colby's, to pick up a box of paper.
I haven't had a chance to review those.
But
I haven't had a chance to review those yet, Matt.
But it's saying, are we gonna do something budget wise, is that gonna be in there, we're gonna use that factor, rather than.
How about we get on to the budget then?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, I don't know if that would necessarily fall under budget, that'll be more of a policy thing, because yeah, you'd have to clarify policy for sure. I just don't know if that would specifically fall, it might fall under kind of the audit, but not necessarily the budget per se. I'm sorry.
Through you to Mr. Shepherd, just to further clarify on your question regarding the use of the truck. That question has been asked to the deputy mayor. We have not received a reply. I also did ask as to respect to insurance coverage, because I would like to make sure that anyone who uses the truck is insured to use it. So that response is, we are waiting for that response from the deputy mayor, which hopefully comes soon.
It was just here.
Is anything good?
Good. Excuse me.
I can on that comment. There was nothing out of the ordinary or the about mine.
Yeah.
So regarding Jay, like, I'm terrible.
January 25.
January 25, the January that just passed,
Yes.
is that the month that the office closed? There was no-
Yeah, it's pretty much closed.
And so,
February,
I'll have to remember. So they were closed till like the 10th or something, the
February 10th.
January, no, the Christmas holiday took till January the 8th or 10th or something. What,
So yes, in summary, yes, this was 1 month we were closed for part of it, but the committee's working hard to go through these receipts. So yeah, 1 month certainly doesn't represent 2.5 years, or 2.75 years. But it's,
okay, that's more concerned, because I see a lot of stuff online that there's, and I've seen some receipts and some post-it notes saying, well, pay me some money because I wouldn't eat here. And, but I didn't see any of those, and so that's just because none of those
we're in that month.
in that month.
none of,
Everything we've seen online from Matt about meals and mileage, that was previous.
And the committee is working on that, the subcommittee, but it's gonna take a long time.
Oh, yes, no, I understand that. I just want to make sure that that there's no suggestion that, look, because here's a short month snapshot.
no,
That there, everything's good, everything was good the whole time, people need to just be quiet, or Matt's putting up online, no, you know, no,
that is not the suggestion at all.
okay.
The reason for doing 2025 first is because I want to get a budget through this year that is really, really good. It took Councilor Hartwick and I and the assistant treasurer, we were half a day, the two of us, I was another full half day, we worked on this just to get through that 1 month, because I gotta keep it, it's really monotonous to check all those numbers, all the HST, make sure it all that matches up, right? Like it's gotta be, it takes time and it's, you know, so I want to do 2025 first. The special audit committee will do 2025 first. Because in completing 2025, we will know if there's any extra expenditures that we don't need in 2026 so that we can sharpen that pencil real good. And my goal is to get this done for us. So I'd love for us to be voting on a budget in like October would be real amazing. So we're gonna focus on that first because of the amount of time it takes. Then after we get this done, then we're gonna look back at 23 and 24.
Okay.
You know, I did a sampling, 23 and 24, I think we reported on that a while ago, and yeah, there were post-it notes, accounts, receipts, and those can't be claimed as an HST component, but I'm not gonna go back and do those right now. 25 so far is looking good. We did review through, June, randomly of 25, I haven't got the receipts done yet, so there's still a little bit to do there. But so far, we still have the numbers and whatnot added up quite well. No discrepancies and things like that. So I don't expect to find any discrepancies really in 2025. But it's going through all those and saying, okay, well, yeah, these make sense to budget for next month or next year. But there was a bajillion pages from Cody's, there was like 200 pages of paper or whatever, boxes of paper, and it's legit. You know, but there was an office chair. Okay, we're not gonna buy an office chair again next year, right? So by going through those and making notes of what we are, that slide's gone. You know, it helps us know next year that, yeah, we do need to buy the boxes of paper, and no, we don't need to buy the chair. So that's why I'm focusing on 2025 first, so that we can get this done, hopefully before the budget, and have something that's very accurate, so that in 26 we're good. Speaking of that, budget?
Thank you. Yeah, so you guys are both good? We'll
Yeah.
move on to C7C, draft budget discussion. And so again, Councilor Allen has quite a detailed presentation on this as well. So again, what we just did, all that review of the actuals obviously feeds into what's happening in the budget here. So Councilor Allen.
So the deputy treasurers did a whole bunch of legwork for me and got this formatted and presented. Of course, general revenue. There's nothing, we don't know what the general revenue is yet. We're gonna make the assumption for right now, we're looking through this particular budget for 2026, that it is indeed, gonna be the same as last year. There's probably gonna be a little bit of growth because there were some new houses built. As you all know, the assessments are going to be froze next year, so your property tax assessment is not going to change from 2026 from 2025. So your bill is a function of assessment multiplied by rate, divided by 100, gives you the bulk of your property tax bill. So knowing that, we can make some really good estimates here. So I got some preliminary numbers from the deputy treasurer for 2026 to come. And in business, it's good practice to budget for 2 years, so I kind of like to, kind of project 2 years out. So I think this year we're gonna have a consensus not to increase the salary of the councilors and mayor for 2026. So I did reduce those back down to this year's rate. The other costs, because of the surplus, there was also a surplus in 2023 of, I believe it was around $230,000, 2023. I'm putting in the spot out. I think it was about $230,000. So we'll finally be able to make use of that surplus with last year's surplus. So things like other, we hope to move surplus into capital reserve. And again, I'm gonna want your guys' feedback on a lot of this. This is the presentation. This is the start. This is the budgeting process. This is not, this is in stone, okay? So by putting that in reserve, we can take other out altogether. I don't like others in budget. So we remove the other, because if we do need that other for some reason, then we can take it from a reserve. That way we're not taking money from you guys to cover other, when there's already money there.
That's all right.
Through you, Councillor Allen, if you could just please explain what the columns are for everyone, so they're aware of what you're
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
looking at.
Thank you. So the first columns are basically the categories, the global category and the subcategories of what the expenses are. And E is really the detailed category. You can kind of basically just kind of ignore those really. This is kind of what it is, like the mayor's, personnel costs for the mayor. Column G is the budgeted amount for 2025. This is what we had for last, I guess this year's current budget we're working on. The deputy treasurer had done some work in reducing some of the areas where we could, so this is some suggestions to start with the reductions. I took them a little bit further for 2026, so that's column I. Column J is 2027's projected. Of course, that's a bigger, a little more broad number, but gives you a pretty good idea. Column K kind of breaks down a little bit about what the items are. And it's just my notes, so you can kind of ignore it. So I guess does that answer it clearly? Very good. So.
That's all right.
Just for you to, Councillor Allen.
That's what I thought.
Councillor, I did want to go ahead, my experience with past municipal budgets and as well as provincial budgets, I have never seen them projected 2 years in advance.
That's
And I know it's your business work.
Yep.
But I just want to let you know, that is not a normal practice for, government budgets to do it that way.
Oh,
I don't know why they don't, but I'm just letting you know that's not normal.
yeah, it may not be normal practice. I chose to do it because there's something here that will come together really nicely for us. I hope as a community, as we can kind of work with this.
Yeah, just, sorry. And so when it does come time to vote on this, we will only be voting on 2026. Nice to see kind of what the numbers are looking like if you're looking at inflation going up, et cetera, over the next few years. But when we vote, this committee will only have the 2026 budget that we vote on.
So, you know, we looked at some of the numbers, in kind of bringing them down, for example, here in section, row number 9. I kind of fine tuned the numbers for, the office building, which is broken down here. I'll promise you. Okay, so the office building has been broken down here. There's some things we haven't used, like office equipment, office furniture, office equipment, so I've broken down to $1. Really like to make some changes down the road with some of these things, but that's probably the 27 option. The office operating is over here, so we went ahead and kind of cleaned that up a little bit as well. So just for example, the biggest chunk is of 2025, the biggest chunk of the building is the lease. The lease is done at the end of October, so we'll be out here. Hopefully, we'll be either our own little mini home or a new house or cheap office or something. So I adjusted those numbers to kind of take into account that we'll probably bring that down to like something more realistic, like $2,500 a month, either for the maintenance and management of the property or the budget. So, or the rent of the property, things like that. So.
Yeah, so on that note, that's kind of why it's nice to see the 27 numbers, because we're stuck in this current lease until October. So we have a little bit of a decrease because November and December will hopefully be in a cheaper place. But it is nice to see that hopefully we're projecting out that we're no longer here. So for the 27 budget, hopefully we'll have some significant drops.
Down to 30.
Yeah, so that's the nice part. Again, we won't vote on that this year. That would be part of what we do. But it's just nice and easy to see. Just one second. You have any question?
I'm just wondering. Paying at the top so that it keeps the heading.
Oh, how do
We're
you,
getting old and we can't remember.
how do you do that?
So going to, on this one, going to A2,
Right here?
no, go down one, A2. Just click on A2. Click on the box.
Right here?
Box, yeah, and then type up in your box, freeze name and it'll pop for you.
Type up where? Here? You wanna go over here? You wanna go over here? Go under views.
Yeah, go under view.
Wants to do that. Do you have any question?
Question about the office building, and I see it's going down from previous years budgeted almost to 225,000. And it's my understanding that the council recently suspended the measure.
We can't remember all of them.
It's my understanding that council recently suspended the mayor because he signed the lease without the lease on that expensive space, because he signed it without council's approval. So, and I know that you're showing, look, oh, 26 will be this, and look, even in 27 will be lower. But aren't we just, isn't that just wishful thinking that the mayor, who's due back shortly, or the deputy mayor in his stead, won't happily go out and sign even a more expensive lease without council's approval? How can you protect the taxpayers from the elected officials just going out and signing massive, expensive leases, purchases without council, like our elected official input? That's why we elect you as councilors. What are you going to do to protect us? Now, it's nice for you to say that this is what's going to be in 26, and look, even in 27, it's going to go down. But my understanding is you can't give us any assurance that the mayor or the deputy mayor aren't going to go out and sign massive new leases, renew the lease on this place, maybe even pay the dentists more for the, maybe they will buy their.
Against the law.
So, okay,
Okay, but so that's my concern, is that you're saying these things and you're putting these numbers up there, but
but if we budget for this, John, they can't, right? Like, if we budget for this, that's the most they can spend.
But,
Because, why? I mean, I can't tell you what the next elected government might do, but if we budget for this, that's the max amount they can spend, they would have to move it from a reserve to use more. But at least we're not, at least if we get the budget down, when you see the very end number, and we tax you less by 13% next year. That's done.
But they should renew the lease.
Well, maybe they can, I can't stop,
And that's my concern is that,
so you're a lawyer, you tell me how to stop
but
it.
that's my concern is that you put these numbers up. And we have confidence and faith in you as the elected officials to protect us. But we see on these numbers and then what you took from us tax wise, what happens?
So we're stuck with this lease until October, but there's no way, the only way out of it is pay the whole thing in full.
Yeah, so the answer is I don't know. You know, I mean, I would be surprised if the mayor did that, especially with the new election coming up in a few months, but you're right, I don't know what the legal police officer standing there with, I don't know, right? But we do have to budget, and that's all we can do in this committee, because the legal side of things, you know, that would be kind of a different part of this. Again, you're right, I don't know how you physically stop it, but I think that's a low probability event. But you're
We're
right,
all in trust, we have no trust, zero.
understandable.
Unless
So for the budget,
voted the election, right?
the budget part,
We're trying to think.
you know, we can project, put it forward, this is what decides the tax rate for next year. But yeah, if something happens where another lease is signed with that authorization, you're right, I have no idea how to stop it.
But we're gonna try to at least get the budget so it's down. Sorry.
Councilor Albert?
Through you, and I would request that you please use your hand to speak. And respect the. I can assure you that I am a very attention to detail person. And I'm a very person who follows up and thinks outside the box. And my role and my goal is to protect the citizens, for something like that will not happen in the future. Yes, can it happen? Possibly, right? We can't say it won't happen, but all I can tell you, I know I will do my best job, and I believe that Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Allen will make sure that that situation does not happen again. I am a very detailed, documented individual, and Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Allen can probably attest to that, because I am a pain in the thorn in some people's side, because I follow up and I continue to follow up. We have implemented policies. I am trying to ensure that those policies are being followed. All of them are not being followed. Our communication policy is not being followed, but I am continuing to follow up and ask those questions and document everything. So I am covering my butt and the citizens' butts too, because it is my job to protect you guys. So can it happen again? Yes, it could happen again. Will we try to make it not happen again? Yes, we will try to not make it happen again. That's all we can say to you, right?
Thank you.
So I really like to talk about the budget. So can we just carry on with the budget, because I really want to do.
Just one thing, go ahead.
I agree with Tom Trevor. Councilors are the stewards of our money. Like, there's bad stewardship. My question I've been asking for a long time, I never got an answer for it. There's also a duty to report. What I mean by that, if I know somebody's committed fraud, I'm supposed to report that to the committee. It shouldn't be up to the citizen to do that. It should be up to the clerk. It should be up to the council. It should be up to the mayor to report that. If they're not reporting that, then let's go back to what John's saying. Is it the problem? But why? Who's reporting this and who's not?
That's not a budget related question. There's a lot of stuff we have to deal with, Mac. Like, we know that. There's a lot of stuff that has to be dealt with. There's a lot of stuff the next council is gonna have to deal with. We know that. Can we please look at the budget? Because I put a lot of effort into this, and this is a starting point, and I want your feedback on the budget. I want to know how we can sharpen the pencil, be as tight as we can, take the least amount of tax dollars out of your pocket when it comes time next year, and get a budget put through that 99.8% of the people are happy with.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Just a second. So unfortunately, Mac, I don't have a great answer for you on that. But yeah, this is the finance committee, so let's try to just stick with the budget for
What
now.
is wrong?
Understood.
About the, traffic break.
So the second part is, are you gonna go line by line, Councilor?
I'd like to go down through them if I could, because there are some, I want to show where we found, like, what I found where.
And so we'll do that in 1 second. And just to kind of answer your question, John, from earlier about the previous money, you're gonna notice some of these lines are pretty tight, okay? And we actually had this debate last year, if you remember the discussion for EMO was a good example. Where we initially were budgeting 120K. And again, there's some reasonable to that if you're EMO and you're concerned, what if something really bad happens, right? And I had made the argument, well, the previous 2 years, we budgeted 100 or 120K or something, we have this all in reserve. Is there a way where we can kind of tighten it down, but then have the reserve money if need be? And so this is an example of where having that money in reserve, correct, we took too much in previous years. But now hopefully there'll be some benefit because we're gonna have a pretty tight EMO budget that doesn't incorporate, well, what if something bad happens from the emergency budget? This is just the basic running that Councillor Allen's gonna do. And then if there is some sort of disaster that happens, we have the ability as the council to then pull money out of the reserve. For EMO as an example, right? So that's kind of, so some of these lines will seem tight and if the former EMO guy was here, would be blown away at such a small number. But the reason for that is that we do have this massive surplus that we have access to. So we're trying to kind of correct that by not taking so much from you this year and having that money that we have taken, that we haven't spent as kind of a buffer. Councillor, Allen, you have something?
Yeah, I'll continue. So, getting down the line of the building again, I do have a tab for the building. It does explain, and this is being recorded. I'll share the link with anybody that wants it. It's, where we've kind of trimmed things down. Again, all my yellow sections are trimmed down. Like I said, the office lease, instead of 172, it's 151,396. I didn't put office equipment or furniture or improvements in because I would be approved, right? So we can sharpen that number down from the, 225 down to 182, year over year, which helps a lot. Go ahead.
If you could please go to your building tab.
Sure.
I have a question with respect to the service ME, and I understand that is for a Planet account. I'm struggling as to why you would need a Planet account,
I budgeted $300,
but why would you not budget zero?
because I'm assuming the other three Planet was $1,250
Yeah.
$125 a month, and so that was like 15 something, not 18 something, so there's, I'm guessing there's another $300 somewhere that I didn't have a chance to ask yet, but probably, license and fees or something, I don't know. There must be another $300. I mean, we can tighten that up later, but again, I wanted to ask that. Oh,
I can explain some about that account if you want to know about it.
sure.
For the $125 a month, that's for unlimited searches.
Mhm.
And like a high volume property lawyer would do that.
Mhm.
I don't think you guys need that. Lawyer I work for does some property and it's not his main area, so we don't have the unlimited browser anymore,
Mhm.
but we actually do property work. And our highest bill has been like $40.
Yeah.
So you pay per search or like transaction, so you guys don't need, unlimited browser.
It just,
So I removed that as well, I dropped that down.
yeah, so just for clarification, what you're saying, Councillor Allen, is that $300, but it was 1,800 before, so you've essentially removed the 1,500 for that search function.
Correct, the 1,500.
So now there's only 300 remaining, which is something, probably some fees or something along the way that we could look into the details of what that would be.
Yeah, and again, I need to finish going through all the receipts in the audit to more clearly nail these numbers down, because I'm not sure, like maybe I think there was, I saw one receipt somewhere, but it might be last, kind of, initial look at 23, 25 with the little samples, there was one, something on somebody's credit card for 49 hours. There may be some service New Brunswick fees other than Planet. I'm not sure. No, if there's not, then good receipts, I'll tighten up a little more. Again, this is kind of preliminary, but I'm trying to tighten out as much as I can and take out what we know we can take out for sure. And I'll continue to do that. If we find there's nothing, then that'll be a zero number.
That's all right.
Through the assistant treasurer, then I would request that she look into that Planet account to see if there is a base fee plus the monthly fee to determine if we can reduce that amount to zero.
So essentially you're saying let's cancel.
Yes, I do not believe it is a service we need as a local government. We are not in the business to transact real estate. So I am confused as to why we would even have that service in the beginning. We do contract and pay to Capital Region Service Commission, and I would expect if we needed any property information on any property that maybe having a building permit or anything like that, we could request the staff at Capital Region Service Commission to provide that information to us.
So again, this,
Just what happened to them, is your,
oh. User anything, yeah.
like, you wouldn't know that by looking at the invoices, if you don't the same with the accounts for.
Are you gonna go line by line, Councillor Allen?
I'd like to, if you want to do that, you could, but. Back to general expenses, so, as we carry on down through, I don't like other lines, so anything that has other has come out. It will take it out of reserve if we need it, I don't like other. Accounting and auditing fees, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I just had another question regarding the building tab. I apologize, and I know, and I just want to recognize Councillor Allen and the Deputy Treasurer have worked very hard on this, and I want to recognize and thank you both for doing that. And I apologize for these questions, but I believe we're. The office cell phone, I believe we're done through Bell, and it is my understanding that the government of New Brunswick has now contracted out to Bell for cell phone service, so I would request, and I believe Councillor Allen may have made this request earlier, but I'd like to formally request that staff look into seeing if we could piggyback onto the government of New Brunswick contract to determine if we can bring that contract amount less.
And that question has been asked, and if we can, we will. But at the moment, we're gonna use the cell phone numbers that we have. Unfortunately, there's two that are stuck on a contract and they have to stay.
And
They're in a
if,
contract in May of 26.
and if anyone is wondering what the terminology when I'm saying piggyback onto it, governments have a process where if one government has entered into a contract, sometimes there's a provision in that original contract where other government entities can basically use the same terms and provisions of that contract, so they call it piggyback. Now, I'm gonna jump on and get your savings that you worked hard at.
Our next big one, next real big one is the other general administration services. Again, not a fan of other. The strategic plan for $40,000 is on budget after 3 years, 2 years. So at the moment, I've taken that off and moved to just for a couple of mailouts a year. So kind of left enough money for a couple of mailouts a year. And that number might get refined a little bit more because a nice lady has forwarded me some new information on how you can get kind of a package with Canada Post for mailouts for about $600 and some. So I have to look into that a little bit, but we may clean that up a little more.
Councillor Howard?
Yeah, just through you, the request to Councillor Allen, if you are talking about a specific line for my use of reference as well as probably everyone else, if you could talk about line number, say 20,
Sure.
number, just so that we can quickly reference and put our eyes to it.
Okay, sorry, I'm highlighting for those folks, so.
Okay, I think so that's. But even the people watching, so we know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, the next one, of course, is, I can put them in yellow, I should put that in yellow. The next line down, number 19 is, the other grants. We only had 18, we only had about 18,000 grants this year. We're not getting the grant requests. So again, thought we'll reduce it down to what we think we probably get for requests. And if we do need more, there is still money that we can move over. So, and I'll get to the full comparison of that later down the document, sorry. Other line with other, sorry, don't like other, not my thing. We'll take it out of reserve. If we can't budget for it, but we need it, that's what the reserve is for. Not taking it out of your pockets and setting it somewhere in case we might need it. RCMP can't touch, so the ones we can't touch, I'm just skipping. So here's a big one, line 23, EMO expenses, it drops from 80 to 420. So I did the EMO budget up, and we are a completely brand new EMO. We will need to get some volunteers. They will need to have some courses, some basic emergency management courses, and ICS courses. Like, we have to have that to be a functioning EMO. I'm making the assumption we'll have 12 volunteers. We may only have 10, but I want to have the cash to pay those 12 volunteers, courses to get those courses taken so we can get up to speed. The meals for during exercises and training, there'll be at least 3 training days throughout the year where we will have volunteers, the dozen volunteers or more in, from say like 9 or 8 or 9 in the morning to probably 4 or 5 or 6 at night. So we really should buy them lunch. Stationery, printing, office supplies. Typically we'll be building a little thing like with contact numbers, policies and procedures. We're printing all that out. So a lot of binders. Anytime I've been with an emergency organization, there's been some prepared material that you have for forms, CS forms, things like that. So we'll have to print those and buy them. It might need a little more than that, but something again, I'll ask council if I can do it 20 or 30 bucks. We'll get approval. I estimated the generator maintenance on the rec center. At the moment, we're discussing it. We'll meet with them for being able to use their facility on the Trinity Church and Baptist Church, and it's calling practice to at least assisting with the maintenance on that. I don't, this number again, estimate, because I don't have the actual number. When the actual number, put it in as to what that's going to be for the year, it will be less than that. Warming and comfort center operations. So we're going to make the assumption that I'm not going to ask for $80,000 for if there's an emergency. I'm asking for $600. So that's to pay one of the churches or the rec center. Typically, we use the church, it's like $200 or something, or typically they have a fee for using it to cover their costs. Comms equipment, again, we're just going to have trains and move that to 27. So that line, that's a big savings. Might drop by a few bucks depending on what the maintenance costs are. Yes.
Obviously, I like the idea that we're tightening her up there pretty good.
Yeah.
Should we maybe have a little bit more flexibility there? Because obviously we can bring money out of that reserve fund. But if, for example, we're in a position like we are now, we can't form some of the way, we can't get to that vote. Should we have a little bit more flexibility there in case we have 2 or 3 days we need the gym from the church or whatever? Because that 600.
You're not gonna have to pay them, like, you're not gonna have to pay the rec center, the church like tomorrow. I'm sure if we told, well, so you all know we just had a small forest fire.
Yeah.
And I did speak with the folks, the Anglican Church and the rec center. And even though we don't have an MOE with them, they agreed graciously to open for us if we needed them, and I could call them at whatever time of day. They'll work with us. They're a partner on this. They're not a.
Fuel or anything, where we need to.
Well, see, for example, they buy their own fuel, and then it goes. And I believe you've already paid some bills for the rec center, but some bills will be for the rec center, yeah, they've already been authorized to pay. So we're already in that position with them. Again, I don't see the need for that. We do have that 600 operating and yeah, if, I'm not overly concerned about it. So, again, carrying on down through, $1,000 for the Santa parade. We were talking about maybe switching that to, if we don't do the Santa parade, maybe grant it out to like the rec center and the Carter Center, $500 each for doing their parades. Let them do it.
That's right.
Through you, to answer your question about if you go over budget, so you would, the 600 amount is there. If you go over budget in an emergency situation and you don't have quorum of council to pull that money out, when you do have quorum, you can go and pull that money out. So it won't be like, no, I can't operate because I've already spent my $600. You can still operate and still spend the money. This, what local governments do and big governments do, and then they'll deal with where that overage will come from, right? It may not even be you have to pull it out of reserve. You may have the opportunity to pull it out of another budget line that is under.
So I apologize, we are active, that's not important. We are, the emergency management is active right now. I have that number phone on. Sorry, Councilor.
So just so you know that it's not like we can't do it, you will do it and then you'll deal with that, overage is not the word, but I can't think of what the word is right now, but when you're, send your bill. Yeah. Deficit, when you're in a deficit situation, you'll deal with that deficit.
Yeah, so Councilor Allen,
Anything.
just an interesting thing we could discuss here this evening, and obviously with the full committee side. Was there any thought of having the Santa Claus parade done through the grant process completely? So like, we're not even doing it. We have someone, like before, Councilor Noble, like she wanted to kind of do it. But since she's not here, is it something that, if she wanted to do it again this year, even unrelated to her being on council, where it's done through grant rather than directly from us, or what are you guys thoughts?
That's why I didn't change it from 1,000 up to the thousands, like if it's granted or whatever, it's there, it's still there, it's not a number to change. And I apologize, I skipped one of the.
I'm sorry?
So in answer to your question, I would fully support that, because I think that is something that definitely could be ran by community members. And I believe last year when the parade was canceled, the weather conditions, that a group of individuals from the community got together and got one the following weekend in the previous year's route. So I would support that moving to a grant program for Santa Claus Parade grant program.
So yeah, this is the week you recommend that budget to council, right? The street lights, for example, the power last year, the CAO grabbed $20,000 of your money. But the actual, based on the invoice I've seen, multiplied by 12 is 1440, not 20,000. So reduce the number down to 1440 because that's the actual number we need to cover the street lights.
Would there be inflation related to that, Councilor? Is that
Yeah,
something?
I did put the estimated 5% increase on the, because any power will be asking for a wage increase. I assume they're gonna go 5%. They ask every year, they're gonna do it again this year.
Did you have some, Councilor? I saw you.
It was actually the same question, is 1440 the actual for this year, or is it a increase this?
I don't like this number around here. This is why I like 99.8% of this budget myself, is the truck has not been sold. So it's still on the budget.
We'll just pause for 1 second, Councilor Allen. You have a question?
Where are these places that have street lights?
It's a good question. It's primarily in Ward 1. Around a lot of subdivisions, I'm told, that there's 20 or 30 of them or something, someone's saying.
50, I think, let's
Say it was 50, okay.
50 of them.
What area? Just give me a.
Target and Mason.
Yeah, and I forget the historical context of why Ward One ended up with so many of those subdivisions, but there was something about the LSD previously. They put in a bunch of statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's very few in Ward Two.
Unless you have a neighbor that shines in that.
Yeah, so there's very few in Ward Two, like, there's not that much. But yeah, in Ward One from settlement stuff, there's a lot of that. It's something to do with the previous LSDs. For whatever reason, they had put a lot in, I'm not sure the historical context.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just to clarify, that's my understanding. It's an inherited expense from the previous local service district before we became a local government.
I just never see, know that there's none where we are. Except for
Yeah.
possibly the ones that the people have, like they're
Correct.
24 hours.
That's the same in I'm in Ward Two, and I'm not aware of any in Ward Two.
From here where we are.
Yeah,
That question was just asked, and we haven't had time to give the answer. It was, I literally got like asked a question yesterday. I mean, you know, you gotta get a hold of your power and get back to us on that, so.
Now, Councillor Allen, I know previously that had been divided out Ward One, Ward Two. Is that still separated into Ward One payment?
I didn't get it that way.
Interesting.
So
I know we were trying to eventually move to one thing, but I thought that one was still separate, but
no, it wasn't separate. That's not how I got it, so.
that's good. Yeah, that's okay.
It's not listed separately.
Okay, so, I'm gonna jump into the next section and I wanna ask everybody to hold their questions until I finish, because going from start to finish here is actually kind of important. It's a little bit of a vision. So that means we're going to be reducing the budget. If you look at line 44 here, the budget request, the money request from you is going to drop from $4.55 million to $3.97 million. That is a $577,792 reduction in what we requested last year. The tax rates are listed here on line 4950. Your current tax rate, now, I'm making some assumptions here. The assumption is that the revenue is gonna be exactly the same as last year, because assessments didn't go up. So since the assessments didn't go up, we're looking at the exact same assessments. We're assuming that, I'm making that assumption here. That may not, that will be the case, so it will be a little bit better than this, hopefully. If we get those numbers, Ward One here, you're dropping from 87 cents per hundred of assessed value down to 76.31. Ward Two, you're dropping down from 88.68 to 77.42. It's a 12.69% reduction in your tax bill. Not quite the full reduction, because remember, there's a cost of assessment in your tax bill and things like that. So that's where I'm hoping we can get there with this budget. Now, in line 53 and 54, you'll see we have the two surpluses from before. So the idea is we'll float to the community is maybe use that to buy like the mini home or something like that in the 250, 350 range price point down the road. If we have that option, the capital reserve is there. If we can do something like that, great. If we can't, again, not the end of the world. It moves us into looking at 2027, where in 2027, you recall Councilor Shepherd said that, you know, like the office cost dropped to $30,000 from $183,000. So regardless of whether a piece of land is purchased and with a mini home on it or a little house that's converted or something like that, something fairly inexpensive that fits the need, or we rent something really inexpensive, we can hopefully carry on with exactly the same budget in the following tax year of, it was a little bit less of $3.92 million. So again, you know, a small reduction of a 1% in 2027 from 2026. Again, this is just a concept that is a pretty good one, because if your assessments go up in 2027, for 2027, which they most likely will, because that freeze will probably be gone, you'll still be able to not see property tax increase in the bill, because we're gonna keep that budget nice and tight and not bring it over the 9.2 or the $3.92 million. So that's kind of the hope and plan of the budget. We can keep it nice and tight like that. It does have a fairly good sized reserve, but the initial kind of thought on the budget for 25 was actually a 245,000 reduction, which is still decent. But by taking the others out and all those other things out, if we do need that there is still some money in reserve if by taking it out, we were a little too dark with a pencil on something for $100 or $200 or $1,000. But it's better in my mind to do that than it is to ask you guys to pay it on it, or us to pay it on the tax bill. Okay, now I got to finish that,
Yeah,
thanks.
so, and just a caution that this is still tentative.
Oh,
It'll need to go, we still have a couple more rounds on it, but also you'll still need to go to full council, and it'll be debated there as well. So these are not set in stone, so don't start planning for these numbers yet. But things are looking good though.
And we want your feedback, so you want your feedback on budget, like, big time.
And there's still a few numbers, like we've added the 5% inflation
Oh, yes.
costs on things like the police budget, stuff like that. So that is probably not gonna be more than 5%, hopefully less, but we don't really know. And so that'll be actually one of the last things will be coming in, and it's a big number, will be things like the police budget and whatnot. Hopefully the RCMP doesn't jack things up more than 5%, but that's just an approximate. So there's still a lot of moving parts there. And again, we need to have all those moving parts and still get to the full council and go as a full council.
Last year, those numbers were around 3%.
Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, that's what we're,
So it might actually be even bigger.
yeah, we're budgeting 5, hopefully, yeah, so that's great.
And you may mention that, I was trying to remember last year, so because this committee didn't function last year, but so now we've got 3 council members sitting, reviewing these, hopefully going to present some sort of some version to council. But yeah, so I shouldn't start planning for this because there's other members on council and they say, no, you're not, we're in fact going to extend the lease, and no, we're going to get a second truck, and no. There's going to be more meals paid for. So it's, I want to thank you for all the work you're doing, but ultimately, it's the other members of council who are going to sit in judgment and make a decision as to how much of our money they're going to take. And I want to thank this committee for the work it's doing, but I think it's the meeting in October or November or last year in December when council is meeting to make a decision on these numbers. I think that's the one where citizens, that's the one that's important to us, is when we see them saying, fine, I'll agree that the lease is going to be X, I'm fine, we're not going to get another truck. So that's the one I think that's important.
And so there's even one worse step in that, I'll tell you in a second. And so, yeah, so the biggest debates will probably be things like the EMO budget, stuff that was really cut. So yeah, there will be a debate of the 5 of us, and that's assuming we all hold together, right? Worst case is the council completely collapses, then the province signs off on whatever they want. The second step, even if we do hold together, this goes to the province, and then they have to send it up. So we could also have them come back and say, no, you guys are being too tight, you need to increase these numbers, and then we're stuck with that. We have to follow what the province tells us. So there's still a couple of steps there. So there's us, very optimistic. We got to get through our council, all 5 of us, if we hold together. And then there's the approval by the actual province itself. So again, let's not get too excited, even though obviously things are looking very positive. We got a lot of steps before December.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah,
So those things are sort of about college survival. We're not going to really parks or make any assets, accumulate any assets, but it's going to survive. That's fair statement.
Yeah, and so certainly from my point of view, and certainly anytime I talk to anybody about finances, my opinion is, and it has been for the last 3 years, we should be keeping things as tight as possible, small as possible. There are a lot of demands for things like parks and stuff. And when we have our town halls, if it is clear that yes, someone wants to do parks, or perhaps at the election, if there's candidates saying we want money for parks and stuff, I do think the community needs to make that clear, or the opposite of, no, let's keep a tight budget, we like a tight budget. Yeah, there's a lot of variation on how to do it. I'm certainly on the end of, let's keep this as small as possible, because really, if we can keep it to 2 staff, a small building, just do garbage, fire, police, like we can keep this pretty tight and basically stay out of people's way. But again, that's up to the council that's elected based on the people, what the people are saying. So it is important to have that discussion, because you could change in May.
One other thing, I see an email, it was, that it could be a possible unproven land in Chevelle Road. City moving from there.
That's a good question. One, I'm not sure what I can say about that, because that might fall under closed stuff. But second, honestly, don't know much about it. So, like the details on that, I honestly don't know much about it.
And tonight, really, guys, let's stay focused on budget.
But within, I think, $300,000. We're gonna be like,
Yes, you're correct. It would. Now, there is some slight technical things that, because we're in a debenture that we can't pay off, we would get money cash, but we still have this debenture that we're paying. It's confusing stuff, it's beyond me, but it's because the way our debenture worked, when we went for it, it's multiple municipalities within the province go to get this debenture, so it's not just our debenture to pay off. Now, having said that, if we then took that money and used that to pay for something else, it's pretty similar, but to actually pay off the debenture, I think it's year 10 before you can do that or something.
that event wasn't through capital, they call capital.
Calculations boring.
It was not, I
No,
It- It was, yes.
think we get around to the fact that it was never advertised for. But,
Was advertised.
was advertised?
Probably 2 little paragraphs in the paper.
So when you have to pay for a newspaper,
Yeah, so I don't know that answer, but it is through the regional board, that's why it's a debenture with multiple municipalities.
I'll be better fixing that one.
So,
Sorry.
I would like to kind of stick to budget stuff
Yeah,
tonight.
try to stick the budget, but, you know,
You're saying that the lease is up in October. Do you mean 26?
Next year.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
yeah, so that's why there's a slight decrease,
Yeah.
because November, December, in theory, hopefully, we're in a smaller place. Depend obviously on the council. Yeah, so we get a slight benefit in 26, but then by 27, we're completely out of it. We don't have the budget for it all unless the new council comes in and decides to do it again.
But, I mean, there's 3 councilors sitting here on this committee.
Yeah.
Do I assume that you 3 agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, officially, we don't vote here,
I
I kind of talk about it and whatnot, so, but I would say, you know, if you've been watching the 3 of us, I'd say we have pretty similar opinions. And it is a little bit of an unusual scenario where the 3 of us actually do make up the majority because there's only 5 and only there's 8, right? So it is a bit of a weird scenario. So that part I'm very optimistic on. The province side, I'm a little less optimistic on, but we'll see.
I'm just looking and saying that there's almost half, right there.
Majority.
Yes,
Current majority.
current majority certainly, but even when there's others, you got almost 50%,
Yeah.
right? Thank you.
So what assumptions in this preparation are you making on staffing?
Yes,
Right now you have the 1.
it's a good question.
And you have up to what, 5 at one
I
point?
think we only ever get 4 full-time, we had maybe some help or something, but I think it was only ever 4 that were official employees. So this assumption is 2,
Because that's a big line item
yeah,
on the previous budget.
So some of the assumptions we made, for example, we really can't even do our HR audit now because we can't approve the. How do you say that? Right, HR, and we can't award that contract, am I saying that correctly? Until September. So until then, we can't really do a lot. So, the assumptions I made there are based on my experience running a small business with 5 staff. And assuming, yeah, making an assumption of 2 staff, and again, that's kind of where I came with those numbers. That number could change. And again, hopefully we can get the HR stuff done before we complete the budget, but again, if it's a little on the low side and we need to be able to get it from reserve, then we can do that, right? So I'd rather not, again, I'd rather try to not take the money from
us.
Yeah, so those are the big assumptions. One is that 5% added to a lot of the things we can't do anything about, that we have 2 staff, that hopefully next, November, our rent level will drop. And there's no frills, no extra, no parks, no nothing. So basically, those are the big assumptions. And honestly, those are basically all we can control, right? Is staffing, where we actually have our meetings, and then like expenses, like what we're buying for lunches and papers and stuff. There's not much else, like our CDP stuff, our stuff, garbage, like all those things are pretty well set. And the other big thing is CRC, which is a massive number, even though it's broken up, the actual total is quite large, going to the central regional, capital service committee that kind of does a lot of stuff for us. So most of it, we actually don't have a lot, so we're just adding 5% and hoping it's less. So tight budget, we do have some assumptions there, but pretty reasonable assumptions, like I think 2 staffs is a pretty reasonable assumption. Again, unless there's a complete change in the council next year with the election, well then now, it's a little tricky, their hands are tied a little bit, if they want to hire a bunch more people, they'd have to take that out of reserve, so there's a little bit of a step there. But, so that could change if you have a very different council next year, they might start hiring people, but currently we have a hiring freeze. And I don't think there'd be support, I can't speak for the council, but in my opinion, I don't think there'd be majority support to hire more people at this time.
So last fall when this all started, I kept hearing that there was services being pushed down on our communities on the province. That was repeated several times, but there was never any communication to the public of what is being expected of the community to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So anything like that would have a huge impact on what you have to budget for.
Yes.
So is there gonna be some communication to us to say, this is what we need to provide for you, this is the cost?
Yeah, it's a good question. So as of right now, there's a lot of talk of like, oh, is the province gonna at some point have us look after the roads or something? We've had no indication of that. And so yes, we are making the assumption that they're not gonna do that to us next year. We know that. And also we're making the assumption that if they do that, that there's some matter of funding that's also transferred. Because if you look at the budget, it's a little confusing how it's laid out, but on your bill, there's like the municipal part, and there's also provincial part that pays for the roads and stuff. So theoretically, hopefully, if they transfer that to us, that just that expense just goes to the municipal side. But again, we don't know, we haven't heard, there's a lot of talk about it, but there's also a lot of talk of reform, of how we're gonna do it differently, and we haven't had details on that. So we can only budget with what we have, and then go from there.
Can you read just what you said on the tax?
Yeah, so if you actually look at your bill, and, I mean, unless they change it again, if you go back to like 23, 24, like it was broken down, like there was like a municipal part, but also a provincial part, and one was 44 cents and one was 39 cents. And there was like a 10 cents assessment. I forget what the numbers are.
All the property goes from this.
Yes, you're right.
None of those, so you're paid to take a salary.
Right.
But that whole 89 cents where it's going to us.
Yes, but then that's taken from us for the roads, right? Like when we actually look at this budget,
No, the budget doesn't have, the budget, yeah, that's, all the CRC and RSC and all these other, like all these line items add up that are in here in this budget.
right, but that's 77 or 87 cents or whatever our total is.
That's
It
calculated.
also has like 40 cents that falls under province in that number.
Well, it'll be in the number.
Yes.
It's $97, there's $1, we get a whole dollar.
Yeah.
We don't get 60 cents in profit.
No, but what I was saying is that provincial part is theoretically paying for our roads and stuff, like we're not actually doing it. And so,
If you guys belong to UNMD, you would see,
Yeah, it's,
they make a little diagram to explain to you that residential property taxes, you guys get all of it. Businesses and organizations, they pay for the roads.
yeah, these are calculated.
Or if you own an apartment building.
okay, so sorry, I might be wrong on that, I apologize. The theory of what I'm saying was, if the province comes to us and says, you're gonna now be responsible for the roads, hopefully that will also come with funding. Maybe not, maybe not, right? And yeah, that's the big thing, it's not gonna happen anytime here, but hopefully it's not just now you're responsible for the roads. assuming we're hoping there'll be some sort of funding with it. So maybe I described that incorrectly. Where that funding now is coming from for the roads, if they transfer the roads to us, hopefully they transfer some funding to us as well. Hopefully, but we don't know. We have no idea. They've been talking about the full 3 years I've been here. They've been talking about it and nothing's happened. So
We're following this.
So this is where we want to start. This is the start. That's why we're having this conversation in August. It's why we're not having it in December, right? So we got time to tweak this. We've got time to we should have the numbers in, I believe they come in September for our income comes in September. I know that, SMB provides those in September for our tax assessment base. And I think the contract's also clear in September. Like, you ready? CRC 25.
October, some,
yeah, fire
some
was
get
really,
over them in November.
fire, or police was really late last year.
Was it police?
I think it was police, maybe actually, or maybe it was fire. One was really late last year.
Well, the reality is you can look at year over year. They're not gonna jump it from 1.5 million to 1.3 million to 4 million on us. That's not gonna happen. So, I think we can work on this, get it really narrowed down real good and have a good idea so that, we're not at the 11th hour approving $20,000 for, power for things when 14,000 is needed. And I think if we do our due diligence here and keep working at this and get it real nice and fine, I think it'll be good.
My subdivision, we have Waybrand that does the plowing for the winter.
Okay.
Previous to that, we had Arrow.
Yeah.
It was, who pays for that problem?
DOT.
So they do the contract?
DTR.
Or UGI.
DTR.
Question with these numbers, so I saw a thing on Facebook about a meeting, like a town hall or a community meeting of.
That's you,
I guess I can talk about that, yeah. Personally, I want to get people's feedback.
Okay, so I'll show up at that meeting and say, look, I think we should be spending way more for.
I want to hear from
The mayor's meal expenses, we should. If I want to show up and say that, that's where I show up and say that.
Yeah, I'll listen to people. I've invited everyone, I've invited all the other councilors and deputy mayors, so.
Okay.
Are we having the numbers or is it more of a general
This
discussion?
is a discussion at that point. I mean, this is out in the public. It's on Facebook, or not Facebook, it's on Teams. People are viewing it right now. It's recorded. So I'm using the numbers.
But we're not going through like we did.
I
Yeah.
don't wanna, I'm not gonna go through that in public. No, that's not, this is just, if people have seen it, I wanna get your feedback.
Through you to, Mr. Gillis, just to clarify, that is not a committee meeting that is organized.
No.
So that is just a meeting that, Councillor Allen has, committed to, hold every 3 months, I think. Every couple of months with the community. Just so everyone knows, I'm not 100% sure I will be there because I do have some other personal commitments that I have to look after. I will try to be there, but I cannot promise to be there right now.
Yeah.
Staff.
Yeah, but mine is 200.
No, 170.
170.
Now, I wanna be careful when it's, that 170 sounds like a lot. That also includes like the EI, like the breakdown for payroll expenses, EI contributions. Because as you know, an employer has to match the employee's EI, CPP, there's other contributions. Those are some rough guesstimates at this point.
That's for 2 employees.
Yes.
So what services are those 2 employees working on? Healthcare,
That's right.
Can you repeat your question, please?
which one?
The one that you said you wanted to know what the salary is of those?
No, it's,
The service.
salary related.
Yeah.
Yes.
So salary is, the exact salary is protected under.
I just don't want to say it. But there's $70,000 for staff. There's 2 staff. what services those two staff want to provide to the taxpayers of our community.
So I'll quickly just give a high level view. It's required to have a clerk and a treasurer. Like, a lot of municipalities have CAOs, chief administrative officers, but that's not technically required. So one will be the clerk, one will be the treasurer, and because there's only two, vice versa, one will be the assistant treasurer, one will be the assistant clerk.
But the treasurer doesn't have to be employed. In 2025, 2024, we only did 331 entries for the whole year, right? So we could point somebody, my hand, the plus payroll, 331 entries, thing for paying down bills and this sort of thing. So we could hire somebody, appoint somebody part-time, like, for 10 hours a month, you know, max, to payroll to do that. They can appoint a treasurer, don't have to be a full-time person.
Yeah, so I don't know, I thought we needed both, but it sounds like Councilor Harper does it.
I understand your position. My position is, I do not want to be in the situation that this municipality was in last February and March, where we could not officially hold any meetings because there was no clerk. If you move down to one employee, then you are really restricting yourself and council to operate functionally as a municipality, because you do need a clerk to hold a meeting, an official council meeting, and an official committee of the whole meeting. This is I'm gonna call it a subcommittee, because it's a subcommittee of council, which is different, very different. So if you went down to that, if that person became ill, went on vacation, maybe left their employment and went to a different job, you are putting the municipality at risk again of not being able to operate.
You're done?
I do not believe this municipality can function with one employee. You know what, the HRRP will answer that question.
That was gonna be my suggestion, is we could not award the HRRFP to get that number down. I tend to probably agree a little more with Mac in some ways, but we need that HRRFP to look at the volume of work, the jobs requirements, the whole 9 yards, time required, and they need to give us an expert opinion on what is needed. And, you know, that does have to be broken up in two persons. It doesn't have to be two full-time persons, but we need to find out from them. That's why that's kind of I'll be honest, I wanted that number lower, but when we looked at it, we went a little bit higher, just to accommodate in case we needed to. But I want to take from I want to take from the reserve, the money we've already paid. But we've got to get that part done too, that RFP, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
The RFP has to be awarded, that has to be done. And it can be done in time before we have to officially get the budget and everything in place. So then we'll be able to nail, with their expert opinion, we can nail that down exactly to a very good dollar figure, right?
So and then further to expand on your question as to what service do the employees provide to the residents, that's your question, right?
Well, what's the reason to be two employees?
So what, this, taking care of the financial matters, right? That, and also taking care of the council related matters where we could not hold meetings unless we had an employee, a clerk. And any other miscellaneous non-council related matters that happen throughout the year, right? General municipal related matters.
But it's not big deal. When you say the whole year, you're 31 entries that are done. Okay.
We will get those answers.
Well-
They are. We'll get the answers.
Full-time too.
But those ideas can be explored, but we have to have the HR people do that review first. Like you can't, none of us here at this table are expert HR people to be able to put that together.
Okay.
So again, the budgeting, when we make any of this set, I'm using my business experience, the best knowledge I have to come up with a number that I think is as close as I can get it realistically, but the HR firm may say something completely different. Maybe they say it's one person, maybe it's five, maybe they, I don't know.
That's right.
Another thing that worries me, if there's only one employee in the office at a time, is from a safety, security feature for employees.
So. The officers that.
I understand that, but to me, there would have to be other risk mitigation put in place in order to ensure the safety and security of the. I understand.
So, then we don't do this. They would
No. I'm not saying that, no, I'm just saying possibly maybe the office door is locked and people have to knock on the door to come in, or they have their phone to come in, there's very different things. Anyways, we're getting off topic.
This is the budget committee, this is finance, audit and risk, so.
Just like I said, HR or, just.
Yeah, Councilor Allen?
Councilor Hartman wrote it up.
So
What does that say?
it's a request for proposal. So Councillor Allen made a motion to look at a retaining and human resources firm who will come in and look at what resources you have, what their duties are, what they do, what you need to function as local government, what are the salary ranges in a similar municipalities, because they'll create job descriptions. It's my understanding there's no current formal job descriptions for staff right now. So it'll just clean up stuff that hasn't been done in the past. And it'll be good for the residents, it'll be good for the council, and it'll be good for the employees, because then it's gonna be formally defined what everyone does and what we need and what's a fair salary.
They could say we need one person, you could say we need 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1.5, 1.25. But we don't know what they're, until it's done, we can't really.
Councilor Allen, did you have anything else on the budget side?
No, so that's it for the budget, guys.
Councilor Hartwick, did you have any other questions or anything? Okay, so we'll move on to part D then, 7D. So this part here, so as far as the schedule going forward, my intent is to kind of try to stick with this time for the finance committee, because it's just before when we future have committee of the whole meetings. So hopefully that'll work well. Now, the audit and risk committee, sorry.
Just so you know, the bylaw that has gone through first and second reading, which will hopefully go through third reading in September, is going to recommend that the committee meeting be the first Thursday of the month.
Right, so yeah, so I would adapt it to the first Thursday at
Okay.
5:30. Yeah, so my goal is at 5:30 before the 6:30 committee of the whole. So yes, once that new bylaw comes in, yeah, my intent would be to do it before the committee of the whole on the first Thursday, yes. And the audit and risk committee though, subcommittee, Councilor Allen.
We will meet as needed to continue the reviews, and we'll write the reports and be presented through the finance
Yeah,
committee.
because those will be a little less formal, because they're literally all being through receipts. So whereas I'm trying to make this committee more formal so people can see, especially during budget committee, budget time. The rest of the year will probably be less interesting, but certainly during budget time, it's where all the kind of rubber meets the road of what we're doing. So yeah, that's my intent. So next month, even though we're not having a committee of the whole, due to the lack of form, I would still like to once again have the 5:30 finance and audit committee meeting on the second Thursday.
So just so you're aware, I am not available the first or second week of September.
Okay.
at all,
That,
at all.
We can still meet, right? We have quorum, which was high.
yeah, so if we could, yeah, it would probably be good just to try to keep that rhythm going of a similar date.
I will be unavailable from, September 2nd until September 12th. And I will not be responding to any emails or any phone calls during that time period.
And I think the next meeting will be a little more straightforward because we're just updating
Yeah.
what we already have, so we're just adding stuff in. You know, hopefully this is pretty smooth the next couple of months, and yeah, October, November, we have this budget done, hopefully.
And carry on with those meetings, Councilor Shepherd, until at least April.
I think until the election, we have to decide, we'll see what the community decides. And so.
The time will be different, no way.
Sorry? Go ahead.
So I believe that probably the last meeting we would be able to hold would be March.
Yeah, makes sense. Give the election.
Because once you, nominations open and, then the nominations close, you really, won't be having those meetings.
That makes sense, yeah. And again, at that point, there should be a little bit less going on.
Yeah.
Because the budget will be done and hopefully commission rules. Okay, so ready to go on to 7E, just a quick update. I don't have much information on it other than, the deputy mayor sent us an email saying that the draft audit should be done in 2 weeks from, was that yesterday or today?
He
Today.
that email this morning.
This morning, so 2 weeks from this morning. I don't have anything beyond that, I just want to give an update because I know a lot of people were asking. And so that's what we've been told, and hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have a draft. So, Councillor Allen, Councillor Howard, did you have anything else? I think, so would you move to 8 to adjourn the meeting? Did you, are you going to adjourn?
I just wanted to expand on the annual audit, just to let you know that I have been regularly following up with the deputy mayor to ask the status of the audit, and as, Council Chair Shepherd has said that was the response we had gotten. I do hope that it is completed within 2 weeks. The draft audit will be presented to us within 2 weeks, but rest assured I will follow up by email up to the end of August. And if it's not done, then I will not be doing any emails until September the whole.
Another question before we adjourn?
You vote against hiring the same firm next year?
It's a good question. Will that fall under asking for the election?
Well, I personally vote against it.
I already, they didn't get the information, all the information until April. Right? That's what it was due, they didn't get the information until then.
Yeah, it's difficult to say for sure how we vote, you know, but I suspect we'll look at it, and certainly it's a concern that there has been 2 years.
We're looking at compliance with the law.
Yeah, I mean,
So every client, we don't do the information until April 2nd.
yeah, so they're tricky situations. I wouldn't want to give a hard answer here tonight, but yeah, certainly looking at options is certainly a good idea.
Yeah, we were done on June 18th.
The audit finance.
What was 18th, sorry?
The audit, June 18th,
It was done?
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's not what I heard, but again,
So through you, I know when, prior to me becoming on council, I know that the assistant treasurer came back to work on March 17th. And her first task was to deal with getting the audit prepared for the auditors. I believe all those tasks were done by March 24th on her side. And the auditors were coming into the office, I believe, the end of March, beginning of April, to start the process. That's my understanding. Yeah, the deputy mayor did share with us that they were communicating with the office in January. And I can't say why they weren't responded to, because all I can work with is what I am being told by the deputy mayor, and as well as what I visually saw, right?
So anything else, Councilor Holman or Councilor Harper?
I-
Motion to adjourn? Oh, anybody wants?
Just with respect to, will you support that audit company being hired again? It would be my hope that there will be an RFP to issue to award a firm the audit services as opposed to using the same firm unless they submit a good proposal and commit to the timelines, because I'm very concerned it's the second year in a row.
It's not just us, for like for other communities too.
But I do know that the town of Warlock, they must have a great auditor, because I believe that there was, I believe it was in May, there's March, was it March or something? I remember looking at some minutes of theirs, and I know it was well in advance of the deadline that
They filed and it was done on time and some
Yeah.
were modeled for you.
yeah, I remember reading their minutes about it.
Do we have an RFP out on that or no?
No.
Yeah, make a
It's
motion.
on the list, it's on the list, yeah.
Well,
It's on the list.
We're gonna have a long council meeting, we'll be back in September.
Okay, so everybody's good?
I'm good.
I can motion to return. Second.
No, I think we should make a motion to bring these reports to council.
Oh, yes, thank you, yes.
Oh, sorry, yes, you're right, yeah, I can second that motion.
So you're making a motion to bring it to council, you're seconding it,
Mhm.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. Now, motion to adjourn, Councilor Rice.
Second. Were you? Sorry. Yes, absolutely. I apologize. I had it on my, in this afternoon, I was sitting, I was sending these out this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking at
Do you want to give them the cities? I'll give them the city, I'll send you the video too.
you.